something that way, and you can be doing the same. That way. I mean, yeah. So like that. Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, my name is Sam Frangione. Welcome to our stream. We are so glad that you are watching here this morning. I'm our middle school director, so we try to have fun. Today is Father's Day, so happy Father's Day to all of you dads who are watching right now. We have a special day planned. We are going to have some fun. If you can see behind me, there is this very cool metal ring. I don't know what you call it, but the thing that you hit and it rises up. We're going to have some fun with that in a minute. But Craig is teaching this morning as we are in our second week of our series, Summer Fashion, and we're talking about the designer label. So we're going to get to hear a little bit more about that soon. Some things that you're going to be hearing about this morning. If you have kids, we have a music camp that's coming up later this summer with Kaleo, and that's something exciting. We have K-Kids. We just had, I believe, a K-Kids event last week. That was really awesome. But Kids is open, and we do not have registration anymore. So if you are somebody who wants to bring your kids soon, you can do that anytime you want. And you can just come, and we would love to see you. That's Susan behind me. We are having a blast here and you're joining us. So we hope you have a great day. Happy Father's Day.
Good morning. On behalf of all of us here at Kensington Church, welcome. We are so glad that you're here with us this morning, whether in person or online. I'm Sam Frangione, Associate Director of Student Ministries at our Lake Orion campus. And happy Father's Day to all of you dads out there. How are we celebrating today? Are we barbecuing, going to some buffets, playing a little golf, maybe a little nap on the hammock? My wife and I have two children, Nora and Luca. Nora is 3.5 and Luca is just 3 months old. So we are right in the thick of it. Fatherhood for me has been a crazy time, but a time I know that where I've learned a little bit more about how God sees us. Thinking of how my 3.5-year-old, when she really wants to spend time with me, and she actually might choose me over my wife, it happens. Not super often, but it does. And when she chooses to spend time with me, I just get a glimpse of what it looks like. I think of how God feels of when we choose to spend time with him. Now, speaking of kids, there is an awesome group of kids called Kaleo Kids. This musical theater program focuses on the arts as well as character building values like empathy and excellence. In a typical year, Kaleo is an incredible outreach to students from our partner schools. We just completed our spring session and had our first in-person performance since December of 2019. This excitement is firsthand for me because I actually was our Orion campus music teacher this spring. So I got to spend time with our kindergartners through 5th graders, teaching them about music, but also about what it looked like to speak life in their lives. So we have another opportunity coming this summer, Kaleo's Spark Camp. This week-long day camp focuses on music and being loved by Jesus. Students learn and sing worship songs written by other kids. They rotate through classes in music, dance, and drama, and have a guest artist workshop each day from a local talented artist or musician. This is a summer experience that your child does not want to miss. You can find out more and register at kensingtonchurch.org/Kaleo. Another thing that involves our kids, maybe you've heard that we're looking for volunteers in our children's programming for the summer. We aren't choosy easy. You don't have to be an expert in children or the Bible. I just want to challenge us men to actively pursue being role models for our children. Let's not be passive. Let's not be so comfortable in our seat that we don't even consider pouring into the next generation. So, men and women, let's take care of the kids in our community. Now, we are in the second week of our summer fashion series, taking a look at the designer label. But before we continue, again, happy Father's Day to all you awesome dads. Being a dad is fun, rewarding, and hard work, but it's also pretty cool.
Good morning. Happy Father's Day.
Yes, happy Father's Day to everybody out there.
Like 4 people are excited about Father's Day. Clearly.
Sometimes that's how it
Boo,
feels.
dads. Like, what just happened? Hey, happy Father's Day. Woo! Okay.
It's awesome.
So, hey, we're thrilled that you guys are with us today, both obviously here and online. We want to welcome all of our different campuses that are watching or wherever you're watching from. You've tuned in to the Orion campus this morning, and we're thrilled to have you. My name is Craig, campus pastor here at Orion, and you are?
I am Sam Frangioni. I am our middle school director here at our Lake
on the
Orion
screen
campus.
too.
I was just there.
Like super famous
Not
today.
to confuse you, yeah. just a
So
little bit everywhere.
so Father's Day. I want to say Happy Father's Day to you too for the
Thank
4th
you,
time.
Craig.
We already
Happy
did
Father's
this.
Day to you.
Wow,
Yes.
thank you.
Yeah, it's only
Such
been a little
shock
bit.
that you said that.
I know.
And you've got 2 kids and a brand newbie.
I do, yes. So
Yeah.
we have a 3.5-year-old named Nora. I just said this on the video, so it's a little redundant.
I know, it is,
But
but
3.5-year-old
nobody
Nora
listens to the videos.
and a 3-month-old Luca. So they are both they're both back there with our amazing K-Kids team, which is pretty cool. So
That's all. I've got 3 as well. Well, not as well. You said 2.
Yeah, I
I've
only
got
have
3.
2.
Maybe I just prophesied something.
I don't think so.
So I've got 3 18 and 2 14-year-olds, and my 18-year-old's actually out of town for Father's Day. He's visiting his cousin that just finished boot camp for the Navy out in Chicago. But first time ever, my son says to me the other day, "Dad, I got you a Father's Day gift." I'm like, "No way!" Like I love my kid.
Yep.
I don't think he's ever got me a Father's Day gift.
Okay.
I didn't even get the macaroni things when they were young. So he says, "I got you a Father's Day gift." I was like, "Get out of here! That's awesome. What'd you get me?" He says, "Well, it's on back order." And so I'm not going to buy it for another 2 months until it comes in.
Oh, wow.
How much do you think? Any bets on how much?
How much he
you
spent,
believe
or if he just
he's
ordered
gonna
anything?
Remember in 2 months to buy it?
I don't
not
know.
happening. I'm
I
not
don't
getting a
know.
Father's Day gift.
Probably
So we
not.
want to celebrate Father's Day with you guys, but we thought we can't just give a Father's Day gift away,
Oh,
right?
we cannot. No, you need to earn it. You need to earn it just a little bit of competition.
So there is a fun cooler here with all kinds. I don't even know what's all in here. Do you know, Sam?
Oh, this is.
I didn't
I
pack
don't.
it.
Wow.
We got all kinds of stuff. We got
What is that?
root beer.
Root beer. That's root beer.
Yeah.
Just to
Good.
clarify,
It's all
this
kinds
is
of
a
good stuff.
bug
This,
assault.
I will say, I personally requested this be added to the Father's Day package. It is a salt gun for killing flies.
Wow.
Do
you own one?
I haven't, but one day I will. It's too much. I can't justify spending it on this thing for me, but
Somebody's
I think
about
I'm
to
going to
get it.
need to. But it's like little pellets of salt, and it kills flies.
That's
and
pretty
so
special.
no more fly swatter. So, or I
Wow.
don't know, maybe your kids even, they
I
get
didn't know
annoying,
that.
like boom, I don't know. But somebody's going to win this morning. And you're asking how you're going to win it. Well, I'm glad you're asking. Sam, can you tell us how we're going to win it?
We have the good old carnival game. You probably saw it as you walked in today, where you take the sledgehammer, you ba-boom on
High
the metal.
striker.
High striker.
High
Okay,
striker,
that's what it's
I think,
officially
yeah.
called. But you wouldn't have gotten to hear my sound effects had
Oh,
I just said
right.
high striker.
Right, true.
So we need. So what's going to happen is you gotta hit the metal. You gotta hit the top. Okay, we're gonna
There it
see who
is.
can hit the highest.
There it is.
Oh, we've got the camera. The live feed is ready. There is Ryan, our kids,
All right.
children's director.
So here's what we need. We need 2 dads willing to compete for the giveaway prize on Father's
The
Day.
bug assault.
Hitting the high striker in the lobby. This is happening right now. So come on, don't be bashful.
Oh,
If you're
somebody's
willing to do
volunteering
this,
their own dad
I
over
just need
there.
a couple of dads on their feet, and we're gonna pick. We're gonna
Oh.
pick. So a couple of dads or your kids are gonna make you go. So
Is that it? He is standing.
It-
He is.
It's really hard to say no right here. I mean, she's just all over dad.
Okay.
So, all right here. We got number 1, and
Are
you
we
pick-
going
you
over
pick
here?
number 2.
Okay, we'll go to the orange shirt.
Oh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Look at
What?
this guy. This isn't fair.
I mean, it's.
This guy's twice his size. Maybe even 3 times. All right. You know what? We'll add a little twist to it.
Okay.
Right? Okay, let's go. All right. Both of you need to follow Sam. You're
Okay,
going to take him out in
here
the
we
lobby.
go. Yes,
All
follow
right.
me. We're going
So
out
we're going to watch
this
you
way.
guys on screen.
We're going to come out this direction. Yes.
All right, here we go. Craig, are you going to lead us in our?
I'm gonna lead us to cheer you on. So
Okay.
you will hear us from this room.
Okay, what are your gentlemen's
He's
names?
sizing up the competition,
Phil
feeling his biceps. That was awesome.
Benjamin.
Phil and Benjamin. All right, here we go. We're gonna hustle on out here.
All right, so let's get them on screen. We're gonna be able to watch them in the room.
All right, now we are out.
By the way,
now
Sam tried
in the
this
lobby.
morning and
Hello,
struggled to
everyone.
even pick the hammer up.
You
Just
can
telling
see
you.
this is quite the hefty sledgehammer. Okay, who wants to go first? Okay, Phil is gonna go first. All right, we're just gonna go for it. Okay. Yeah, it hit it. No problem. It hit the
That's
top
a big
pretty
surprise.
quick. All
Give him a round. Everybody
now,
cheer him on. Let
Benjamin,
him hear you from the room.
they're cheering for you. Okay,
No
here we go.
pressure.
you got it. You can do this. He
That was
also
a
hit
hit.
it. They both hit
We got
it.
two
Okay,
hits.
so
All right.
takes a little bit of strength. We know that as dads, but it also takes accuracy. So now the tiebreaker is who's gonna get the closest to 1,200? This
All right,
line right
little
here.
twist.
You gotta control it. So you just gotta try and get as close to that as you can. I'm gonna need to be a good judge of this. And we will. Wow, that was incredibly accurate. I don't know how
man.
you did that. Phil, that was very close. That was pretty much right on the line. Okay, guys, you both did awesome. Phil, I think you were our winner, but we're gonna head in. We're gonna head on in. Great job, guys. You were awesome.
All right. As they come running back in, where are we at? We should be in any door here. Come on, Sam. Move, Sam. Move. All right. This Phil was the winner. Is that right?
Yes.
All right,
was the
Phil. Here you
winner.
go. Prize right up here. Help yourself to it. Great job, guys. All right, so as our, this is gonna be a hard transition. As our musicians come out, they are gonna take us in. Right there, man, that is all you. What's that? Both of them, dude, it's all you. Happy Father's Day. Here, and a meat stick, because what says Father's Day like a stick of wrapped meat? So, hey, so as we move into the rest of the morning, so our musicians are gonna take us into a time of our music and really our worship, which worship is always an interesting word because it's not a word you hear often outside the church, although you do hear it outside the church. But I always loved when I once heard somebody say that worship is in essence an attempt to use our words in moments like this to ascribe to God the worth that he is. And so we're gonna go into a couple of minutes of just letting who is the great Father of all hear our words singing to him about the worth that he is as creator, as maker, as father.
If you know the song, sing it with us this morning. I give you glory for all you brought me through. And now I'm ready for whatever you want to do. I'm moving forward to follow after you. And now I'm ready for whatever you want to do. Your presence is an open door. We want you, Lord, like never before. Your presence is an open door. So come now, Lord, like never before. as we sing this bridge, make it your declaration this morning. Here we go.
I know a breakthrough is coming. By faith, I see a miracle. My God made me a promise and it won't stop now.
Anybody believe it? Come on.
I know a breakthrough is coming. By faith, I see a miracle. My God made me a promise and it won't stop now. I know a breakthrough is coming. By faith, I see a miracle. My God made me a promise and it won't stop now. It won't stop now. I know a breakthrough is coming. By faith, I see a miracle. My God made me a promise and it won't stop now.
What we sing. Sometimes on this journey, I get lost in my mistakes. What looks to me like weakness is a canvas for your strength. My story isn't over, my story's just begun. Failure won't define me, 'cause that's what my Father does. Failure won't define me, 'cause that's what my Father does. Ooh, lay your burdens down. Ooh, here in the Father's house. Check your shame at the door, 'cause it ain't welcome anymore. Ooh, you're in the Father's house. Yeah. Arrival's not the end game, the journey's where you are. You never wanted perfect, you just wanted my heart. And the story isn't over, the story isn't good. Come on. Failure's never final when the Father's in the room. Yeah, yeah. Failure's never final when the Father's in the room. Ooh, lay your burdens down. Ooh, here in the Father's house. Check the shame at the door, 'cause it ain't welcome anymore. Ooh, you're in the Father's house. Yeah. Prodigals come home, the helpless find hope. Love is on the move when the Father's in the room. Come on, you sing. Prison doors, prison doors. Come on. Yeah. Love is on the move when the Father's in the room. Miracles take place, the cynical find faith. Love is breaking through when the Father's in the room. Yeah. Jericho walls are quaking, strongholds now are shaking. Love is breaking through when the Father's in the room. Love is breaking through when the Father's in the room. Ooh, lay your burdens down. Ooh, 'cause it ain't welcome anymore. Ooh, you're in the Father's house. Come on, yeah.
Dang, I love his voice in that song, and it's so good. Man. So, we got a lot more fun planned for the morning. I think a lot more laughs, otherwise just me feeling awkward that my jokes didn't work, and the pictures I'm gonna use aren't funny. But before we do all of that, here's what I'd love to do for a minute is just acknowledge that on a day like this, there's also a weirdness to it for some of us. On Father's Day, it's a lot like Mother's Day in its complexity. Because on a day like this, there's some of us that are approaching it with a lot of joy, and there's some of us that are approaching it with some pain. And there's some with celebration, and there's others with frustration. And so here's what I want to do just for a minute is really what that song invited us to do is I want to invite you to do that, because realizing that we're all coming from a little bit of a different place when it comes to a day like this where we're going to celebrate Father's Day. And even though we're in the same series, I'm going to lean in a little bit to our dads this morning. And so for all those reasons, some of us might need to actually do what we just sang, which is lay a sense of burden down this morning. I want to put those words back on the screen for a minute, because I just think they're so poignant. Lay your burdens down. Yeah, I'm not going to do the ooh part. Here in the Father's house, check your shame at the door, because it ain't welcome anymore. You're in the Father's house. I don't know what your idea of God's house is, but I know for a lot of us, we have an idea that we either grew up with or somewhere later in life, somebody gave it to us, that the Father's house is a building. It's not a building, it's a gathering. The house of God has never been brick and mortar, it's always been flesh and blood. That's why the Bible says that we're even just 2 or 3 of us get together. Just 2 or 3, there could literally be just 2 or 3 of us, not even here, in a parking lot in some random place, and that would be the Father's house, because God says, that place, I'm there. And so there's a few more than 2 or 3 of us here, including those who are watching online. You are as much a part of this as anybody else in this room. And so I would just say this is the Father's house, a place where we really can lay our burdens down to Jesus. And so maybe part of the burden that you need to lay down a little bit is the funkiness that for you is attached to Father's Day, the complexity or the different emotion than what's typical for Father's Day, maybe a sense of ache or disappointment. And here's what I hope you will believe, if you don't already, is that even though I'm gonna lean in a little bit to dads this morning, this isn't just about dads. And everything that comes out of this book that describes itself as alive and living, this book that has a voice, everything that comes out of here is to our benefit, to our joy, and to our growth. And it speaks. And we have the ability to hear God's voice literally through these pages. These are not dead words. They are alive. They are living. They literally have the ability to penetrate to the deepest parts of who we are. So here's what I believe very much. No matter what burden you carried in this morning, no matter what lack of burden you carried in this morning, no matter what place you are in your spiritual journey, convinced there's a God or really uncertain about it, this book has the ability to meet you and speak to you. The presence of Jesus has the ability to meet you and speak to you today and help you with whatever burden you carried in or whatever joyful place you're in to take you where he wants you to be. So I'm gonna pray to the author of this book, whose presence I believe hangs in this room, and ask him to just own the rest of this morning for us. Father in heaven, who is also here with us today. What an incredible thing, especially on a day like this where we call it Father's Day, where we get to also acknowledge in this moment that you, the God of creation, describe yourself as a father. And of all the ways that you could have described yourself to us, a dad is the one that you used more than any other. And so I pray this morning as we open up this book written to us by you, that you would make sense of it through the power that is your Holy Spirit, who can move into our minds and our hearts in a way to give understanding, in a way to give insight. And I pray that you would do that today. I pray that every one of us would hear something from your voice this morning. And I pray that those of us as dads would have a particularly keen ear to what it is that you, as the Father of creation, has to say to us today. We thank you, we love you, And I celebrate the fact that we can be, as we sang, as we are together in your home this morning and in your house. In Jesus' name, amen. Thanks, guys. And gals, thank you. So one of the things we want to do before we go any further this morning is take a minute just to receive up our offering. And I had such a cool phone call this last week from somebody that's a part of our Orion community. We just wrapped up a series called Go in the last couple of weeks, talking about our value to be a church that gets outside these walls and continues to move as Jesus told us to move. And one of the ways that we're uniquely doing that right now, specifically doing that, is through our newest partnership globally with an organization called the Timothy Initiative that plants churches in northern India and Nepal, and we're particularly partnering up in that region with them. They plant all over. So I had somebody from our Orion community call me this last week and say that they've been thinking about it, praying about it, and as a family, they want to personally take on the responsibility of planting 20 of those churches. So I am continually blown away at just the open-handed generosity of our community that really does believe we do this because God has given us all we have. And for his name and his sake, we will go. We will go with our person. We will go with our resources. We will go with our words so that there is no excuse anywhere on this globe for people to not know there is a God whose name is Jesus, who is wildly passionate about them. So if you're part of that with us, thank you. If you're not, we'd love to have you join us in this. So here's how you do it. A couple of ways that you can give. You can text. You can go through our app, which is probably the easiest. Or if you like to do the physical thing, there are actually buckets, receptacles on the way out that you can do that with as well. So just appreciate your generosity. All right, so if you guys were with us last week when we kicked off the series, or if you were able to watch afterwards and you weren't here physically, you know that Jeremiah from our Clarkston campus was with us, who did, I think, an amazing job. So thankful to have Jeremiah here. But I was also thankful that he wore the shirt that he did because it allowed me to make a lot of fun of him during the day. As a matter of fact, so Jeremiah, if you don't know, like he is just, I mean, he's your size. He's a massive dude. He eats sandwiches as big as me. And you weren't supposed to, there it is. So, okay, I gotta tell you. So the whole morning I just kept looking up, third button down. It's just like, help me. Help me. I was like, and so we had in one of our staff meetings this week, we had all kinds of fun with Jeremiah. Andrew Kim over at our Troy campus snapped that screenshot. He's like, look, I can even see skin. And all of us were like, we have to do this to make that happen. Like, what in the world? So I can't wait till he comes here again to have something else to make fun of him for. But I did tell him, I'm like, whenever you come back, you just got to pick a different shirt, dude, bottom line. And here's what I love about this series, and why I make fun of Jeremiah a little bit, and I'm pretty sure he's doing the same thing at Clarkston with me later today, is this whole series is about what you and I choose to wear, what we choose to put on. And not just on the outside, but on the inside. But let's be honest, in both places, we're not always very intentional with what we wear and probably need to pay a little bit more attention. So since it's Father's Day, I want to put to rest some outfits that as dads, we just need to stop wearing. Because we are among some of the most justifiably criticized groups of people with our outfits at times. So let me show you a couple of these people. If you are this person in the room this morning and you're like, are you trying to be offensive to me? Yes. All right, here we go. Picture number one. So much to say about this guy. I'm just going to focus on two things, and you know what they are. The Hawaiian shirt and the fanny pack. Let's all just agree right now. Those are no-nos, okay? Everybody say, do not do. Yeah, ever again. Yes, please. No. So the only time I've ever seen a fanny pack be cool was when my brother-in-law, who retired from the police force years ago, used to wear one, and he kept his revolver in it. I'm like, okay, I guess if you do that, it makes it a little bit better. Still shouldn't. Picture number two. For the love of everything good and beautiful in the world, stop wearing socks with sandals. We don't do that anymore, okay? Picture number three. Jorts, okay? They had their day. They were great when we were like, oh, it's like jeans without jeans. No, they shouldn't happen anymore. And then, so hold on before we go to the next one. So I thought, you know what? I'm giving you all kinds of things not to do. I thought I should give you something to do. So I looked up, literally, I Googled runway fashion show for men's outfits. It was a really bad idea. This is what popped up. So I offer this to you for future wardrobe. I don't know what to even say about that. All right, let me take you back to where Jeremiah started us in this series. This is the Apostle Paul who once wrote to a church he had started. The book is Colossians, it's chapter 3, verse 12. Therefore, as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, clothe yourselves, everybody say clothe yourselves, with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. Bear with each other and forgive one another if any of you have a grievance against someone. Forgive as the Lord forgave you, and over all of these virtues, put on love, which binds them all together in perfect unity. Just say this out loud with me. Say, it matters what I wear. When I was in high school, one of the brands that was popular, I'll date myself a little bit, was a brand of jeans called Get Used. They had the label Get Used like all over them, and then they were ripped and torn, so they're basically like jeans today, normal. But they were like the thing when I was a kid. The problem was they were like super crazy expensive. So my family, 7 of us growing up, did not have Get Used jeans. So I remember this one time, my buddy Eddie, he was an only child, he had everything he ever wanted. He had a closet full of Get Used outfits. He had this one pair of jeans that he had literally just destroyed. They were no good anymore, and I think he outgrew them, and so he was gonna trash them. And I was like, I got an idea. So I cut the labels off of his jeans, and I sewed them, like 3 of them. I sewed one up here, I sewed one out here, I sewed one over here, and I was like, I got a pair of Get Used jeans now. The only thing is, I felt like a complete poser the entire time. Like, there was never any point where I didn't know I was faking it, so I'm just like desperately like, please nobody notice, please nobody notice, please. Well, of course they noticed. I'm like a 10th grade boy sewing my pants. It looked horrible, and the jeans didn't look anything like Get Used. So literally in the middle of class, I had somebody call me out on it and go, hey, those aren't really used jeans, are they? It's like, yes, they are. And just had this like totally embarrassing moment. And here's what I just know is probably true about all of us, even though you've never faked a designer label maybe, is that we probably all have a tendency to put more emphasis, more attention to what we wear on the outside than what we wear on the inside. To what we put on our bodies as opposed to how we clothe our souls. And yet what the Apostle Paul was saying, particularly when he said, clothe yourself, he's leaning into a very intentional idea. Like instead, like don't just like randomly try to fall into this idea of what it means to be a follower of Jesus. He says, as God's dearly loved, his chosen people, he's saying, clothe yourself. In other words, intentional pursuit. Like you wake up in the morning and you decide, this is who I'll be. And this is what I will clothe the inner part of who I am with. Like none of us have ever woke up in the morning and just been dressed. You're like, I have no idea how that happened. All right, that saved me some time. Nor do you reach into the drawer and just whatever you grab in the dark is what you put on. There's a thought process behind how we clothe ourselves. Unless you're a junior high age boy, no offense to you all, but you're still in that phase where it's like smell test only. Smells all right, I wear it. Like besides that, most of us put a lot more energy into what we're gonna wear throughout the day. A lot of intentional choice. This is what Paul's saying. When it comes to your inner being, you should have no less, if not even more, intentional ability, intentional pursuit, intentional thought out process of what am I clothing myself with. And look at the list again. I want to read it again because it's a pretty incredible list. He says, compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, patience, forgiveness, and love. The one that he says is the binding power over them all. So for just a minute, where's my dads? Hands up in the room, hands up on the chat. My dads. All right, so I'm gonna lean into you for a moment on this one. What if that's what you clothe your inner self with every day? Because when Paul says clothe yourself, he seems to indicate that these are things we can choose. And clothing yourself involves as many things to say yes to as it involves things to say no to. So he seems to indicate that this list that follows, clothe yourself, are choices we can make. So imagine if these are the choices you made every morning for what you would put on your inner self: love, patience, gentleness, kindness, forgiveness. Like how might that affect or even change so many of the different dynamics of relationships that you're in from day to day? Maybe at work, maybe with your spouse. How might that impact or change a relationship with your kids? With a friend? Maybe even with your own mental health? Because here's what I think is true about a lot of us. And maybe some of you would say, that's not me. I just tend to think it's probably many of us. It's dads, it's men. I think a lot of times what we feel like we're wearing any given day is more of a fake version of used jeans, feeling a little bit like a poser, hoping nobody finds us out. And what we tend to do is we look around at everybody else and we think they're wearing the real deal, real brand. Like we look at other dads or other men or other people and we go, man, that's the real deal dad right there, real brand. Or that's the real brand of a man, or that's the real brand of a husband, or that's the real brand of success. And we have this tendency to go through life thinking we're a little bit of a poser trying to fake it and hope nobody finds it out and thinks everybody else around us is more of the real version. And I just have to continue to remind myself, and maybe you do as well, there is no such thing as a pro athlete dad. In my own life as a dad with 3 kids, I can just tell you, and you're probably very similar, I have had moments where I have hit a home run. And I've had many moments where I have struck out. So even if you're not a baseball fan, I'm going to assume that you are familiar with probably the most famous home run ever hit in history. It was October 1st, 1932, World Series, Game 3, Inning 5. Babe Ruth was at the plate. 2 strikes, 2 balls was the count. You know this, right? You know the story. And what did he do? He points out before the next pitch, 2 fingers, right towards middle field, center field. He points out. And then he steps up to the plate, and he crushes it. And he hits that ball, and it drops right into the center field seats. And he had a lot of other home runs that we never talk about, that we don't even know about. Why is that one important? Why is that one the home run that everybody knows of Babe Ruth? Because he called it. Because he called it. There may not be any such thing as a pro athlete dad, but what matters is that we're calling our shot. Is that we're saying, this is who I want to be. This is what I want to clothe myself with. Because the reality is he could have stepped up, swung, and he could have had an error. He could have had a foul ball. He could have struck out. But at the end, what made it powerful is that he called his shot, and he knew where he was swinging. So let me bring it back for a minute to the analogy we've been in with the wardrobe series. As a parent, a mom, a dad, let me lean on dads for a minute. What you wear, you're passing down to your kids. Every day you're making choices about what you clothe yourself with. Even if it's not that list, you're choosing whatever it is. And I'm telling you, and you know this, but sometimes we need to be reminded of it. What you clothe yourself with, you are handing down to your kids. They are your hand-me-downs as a dad. Or as a dad, they're your dad-me-downs. It's what you're passing off to your kids. And so that's why Paul's saying, you better think through what it is that you're clothing yourself with. Because especially for those of us as parents, we're handing that off to our kids. So this is the calling your shot, is being intentional about what it is you clothe yourself with, to say, there may be moments I strike out. There may be other moments it's a foul. There'll be other moments it's a home run. But over all of it, I know where I'm aiming. And I know what I'm swinging for. Love, patience, kindness, gentleness. Paul gave us the list, and he says, clothe yourself with that. You know those moments where as a parent, you look at your kids and you see something in them and you just celebrate it, and you know, in a humble way, but you just know, like, that came from you. And then there's other times you look at your kids and you're about to get mad and you go, oh, that all came from me as well. Like my kids, I have noticed over the last number of years that they have this face thing they do that it basically says, as they're looking at you, you're an idiot. Like, you ever seen that face? My kids have it. I'm gonna show you one of my daughters making it to my other daughter. We were at a trip, so there's the zoomed out. Like, look at my one daughter, Corinne. She's on the right. She's like super happy. Tobin's just the whatever cool teenager. So Jocelyn, zoom in on Jocelyn. You can see her face a little better in the next picture. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Here's Corinne. I'm just enjoying the weather. Here's Jocelyn. You are an idiot face. And I've been trying to figure out where it comes from, and my natural conclusion was my wife. It must come from her, until there was photo evidence to prove to the contrary. So here's another picture. So this is me and a guy that I used to coach with for soccer. Go ahead, zoom in. We'll get a little tighter shot on that one. I don't know what he was saying, but clearly I did not like whatever it was he was saying. My wife tells me I make that face all the time. So if I've ever made that to you, apologies. But so I want to show you this video of, I think, one of the greatest examples I've seen in a long time of just this reality of the impact of being watched, of passing down, and modeling, and the importance of what we clothe ourselves with. So take a minute and just check this out.
Life's just so amazing to me. Like when I walk through that door, I feel happy, put a smile on my face. I see a lot of people here that knows me and I know them. It makes me feel awesome. I'm Colin Clark. I'm a bodybuilder. You never give up.
Would you please make a new Kentucky muscle? Welcome to Holland!
Working here at Bob's makes like a home to me. So I come here every day and collect my head. Just makes my day.
Here, let's go. 1.
Give me more than that.
2.
He's always had an interest in the WWE, and that's where it all started. And he's always looked up to John Cena. Then he realized that John Cena was a bodybuilder, and to get to where he wants to go, and he still wants to go, was to become a bodybuilder. And then so it all just kind of fell in place when we met Glenn.
He taught me all about fitness life and bodybuilding. Fitness changed my life emotionally, physically. Don't quit, don't quit.
Colin was working the front desk. He was extremely introverted and extremely shy. I was in here practicing my posing routine for an upcoming bodybuilding show. And unbeknownst to me, Colin would come and peek through the blinds there and watch me. Then one day, Colin looked around, snuck in the room, got under the lights, took his shirt off, and then he started emulating my every move. That's when I knew I had a responsibility.
I said, hey Glenn, hey, can we talk about me being a bodybuilder? He said, yeah, I'll put you under my wing and we can do it together. He's a big brother to me, and I consider him as a real family member to me. I just look up to him every day as a mentor. This is my 5th place reward when I won 5th place in bodybuilding competition.
We always thought that he could do whatever he set out to do, but for someone else to see that in him and do it, it means a lot.
Glenn has been his trainer, his inspiration. He looks up to him so much, so this is a special night for both of them.
It was spiritual, it was moving. When someone has that much passion, that's contagious. He's made this transition and this change, and he's now confident.
When the challenge comes to you, you gotta overcome all the odds. Yeah, it might get hard, it might hurt, but you gotta keep fighting. You gotta keep pushing with everything you got.
Isn't that awesome? My favorite line in that whole the whole video is when he says, when I noticed Colin was watching me and emulating me, that's when I realized I have a responsibility. I don't know if you're feeling this yet as a parent. I don't know where you're at in your stage of parenting, but I think there's these different stages we go through, and in most of them, at least for me, maybe you're different, I have been unaware how much my kids are peeking through the blinds. When he said, he's like, I saw Colin, he's like peeking through the blinds watching me. Because when your kids are super young, you have this tendency to think like they're too young to really be like emulating me yet or catching things. I think there's a really small window where we tend to believe or realize like, holy smokes, they're watching, they're emulating. But it's a small window where I think we really realize that. We don't really acknowledge it when they're younger, though it's true. Or even when they get into teenage years, which is my world right now, we start to think, oh gosh, they're not watching me. They just want to throw me off the ship. They hate me these days. And here's what I continue to realize. No, they're peeking through the blinds and they're watching. And so I love how he said, when I realized I was being emulated, that's when I realized I have a responsibility. Listen, dads, you have a responsibility. And this is your responsibility, to be deeply, deeply intentional about what you are clothing yourself with, because you are being watched, you are being emulated, and you are handing stuff down. You are creating dad-me-downs, hand-me-downs from what you're putting on yourself every day. You're handing it down. And there's all kinds of books and seminars and sermons, and I mean, there's no end to the list of resources available to us on any given day that are the encouragement and the challenge to us as parents about what things we should be putting on to be able to hand off. I just want to give you a couple right now, because I also believe that it's not just about what you hand off, it is about what you're receiving. Because it's really hard to continue to give off to your kids what you're not first receiving from a father as well, from our Father, the Heavenly Father. So a couple of things I just want to encourage us as dads, as parents in general, but leaning in specifically to dads for a minute, is to put on the clothes of, number one, these will be on your screens, challenge you to take a picture or write them down, the clothes of a beloved son. Let me tell you why, give you a verse. Why is that you would hand down love, not apathy or anger. There's a verse in a book in the Bible. It's a pretty obscure book. Some of you maybe have never even heard of it. It's a real book. It's called Zephaniah, chapter 3, verse 17. In the Old Testament, this is what the prophet says. The Lord your God is with you, the mighty warrior who saves you. He will take great delight in you, and in his love he will no longer rebuke you. This is it. When I read this years ago, this became instantly one of my most powerful favorite verses. But he will rejoice over you with singing. Any of you sing to your kids or have sung to your kids? My wife Nicole started doing that when they were, I think, firstborn. Every night she'd sing to them. And so then there was this one time where she was gone on a trip and it was just me and my kids, my girls started going, sing, Dad, sing. I'm like, oh, no. They're like, sing, Dad. And so I don't know why, but for some reason I decided to sing this song that I learned. It's a song that I knew from a kid, but I'd learned a Spanish version of it when we did a trip to Mexico, a mission trip years ago. So I started singing it to them. Padre te adoro, quiero darte mi todo cuanto te amo. And I would sing it over and over to them in Espiritu and Cristo, and we would just sing all these different versions, and every night after that they would say, Dad, sing that song again, and I would just sing over them. Do you know that one of the things that I think is just so precious and tender about a parent that you don't do for other people is sing to your kids? Like, you don't go into work and see your boss and you're like, it's so good to see you. Like, it's not, that'd be super weird, but you do that with your kids. Why? Because they're beloved. Because they're beloved. Listen to me. Here's what you need to hear first. Dads, you are beloved to the Father. And I know, man, I have so many conversations. I know some of you right now internally, you're pushing back. And you're going, no, not me. I've got this thing, this stuff, even last night. Ugh. And that's where you start to feel like you're the poser. We're in the fake brand. And that's the lie in your head. Because the Father says, I died for you. That's how beloved you are to me. And the more we can clothe ourselves in realizing we are a beloved son, the more we can hand off that beloved nature to our kids. But some of us never got that. Some of us didn't get that and didn't get a really good version of that from our own dads. My dad and I, our relationship was just different at times, but I think a lot of ways it was probably a more stereotypical dad-son relationship. There wasn't a lot of affection. There wasn't a lot of conversation. I know my dad loves me, but there was just him doing his thing and me doing my thing. And I know that part of what that did is it made it challenging for me to feel like God, who describes himself as a father, is tender towards me. You know where that started to shift? Years ago, I had this weird episode where I passed out and nobody knew why. And as I passed out, like randomly, I fell over, smacked my head on a window ledge, and then I just went out cold. So I ended up getting rushed to the hospital, trying to figure out what was going on. And the guy that I worked for and worked with at the time, the pastor of the church where I was a youth pastor, shows up to the hospital. I'm a little groggy. He comes beelining in. His big, giant, massive ex-football playing college quarterback frame stood over me, stroking my hair, weeping, kissing my forehead, and calling me his beloved son. I didn't even know what to do with that in the moment. Like I'm half passed out and I've got this grown man crying over me and kissing my forehead and calling me his son. What's the point of that? The point is not if I come visit you in the hospital, I'll kiss you. That's not the point. The point is that started to shift something inside me. And what it began to shift is my understanding of how beloved I am to the Father. And that didn't happen by doing a Bible study. It didn't happen by hearing a sermon. It didn't happen from reading a commentary. It happened from another man showing me in his strength how precious I was to him. And that started to help me understand in a whole new way how precious I am to him. The more we understand that we are beloved sons, we will hand that off to our children. But you've got to clothe yourself in it first. Second thing to clothe yourself in as a dad is this: the clothes of a pursued son. Of a burden-lifted son, that you may hand down joy and not grief. Clothes of a burden-lifted son. Here's a verse that Jesus once gives us, and he's speaking to us about burdens on your screen. This won't be new to many of you, but this is what Jesus once said to all of us: "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." That's the Father's invitation to you and I. Do you feel burdened? Come to me. I can actually help take that off of you. I'll tell you honestly, I don't know how that always happens, but I've experienced it. There are moments just going to him, like we talked about in the beginning, and laying your burdens down before God, where it literally decreases. Emotionally, mentally, and I can't explain it. I can't tell you how. There's nothing I do except go to the Father's presence and watch him begin to lift that burden off of me. That's his invitation to you and I as his sons, as his daughters. I think one of the unique calls of a dad is to be a burden remover from our children. And yet many of us have experienced the opposite, where our parents, even many times, specifically our dads, place burdens on us, or are just unaware of the burdens that are already there and refuse to remove them. Our kids in their teenage years and their younger years, it's a weird time of life. And life puts burdens on them. One of the things we should be doing is looking at the lives of our kids going, what burdens are on their shoulders that I can remove? And we should certainly be looking at where we might be adding burdens onto them that we need to stop. I heard one pastor recently talk about the idea of charging your kids rent when they graduate. So when I grew up and I graduated, it was the typical, maybe some of you have done this already, like, hey, if you're gonna live here, you're gonna pay rent. So I was like, if I gotta pay rent, I ain't living here, I'm out. So I moved out really quick. And so I've already thought myself, like I even joked with my son, I'm like, Tobin, he just graduated high school. I'm like, time to start paying rent. Like he hates that joke. And I heard this pastor recently say, why would I charge my sons or daughters rent? Like life is already burdensome enough. Why would I add that burden onto them? I wanna remove that from them. Now, hear me. If my son Tobin or either of my daughters are like 32, eating Doritos, living in the basement and playing Xbox, I'm probably gonna make some rent expectations, right? So I'm not saying advocate for them being lazy and unproductive and not taking charge of their lives. What I'm saying is why they are trying to forge through life, why would I wanna add more burden onto them? But we do it in a lot of different ways. I mean, honestly, sometimes we do it with sports. You're gonna be a travel superstar. I've seen so many kids that have been driven in sports, and they're good, and they get right to the cusp of being able to make a decision to accept going off to some college and getting everything that they'd worked for, and they quit. You've seen it, right? Why? Because it's no longer joyful. It became grievous to them. It became a burden to them, or we push our kids in a career. But if we're honest, come on, sometimes it's not really about what we have in hopes for them as much as it is how what they do will reflect back on us. And that's a burden that we can sometimes put on our kids. We should be burden removers. Sometimes it's just not helping our kids figure life out. I know for me, one of the things that I felt like I was doing a lot, the oldest of 7 kids growing up, is just figuring life out. So many things I felt like I just had to figure out how to navigate alone. One of the things I've tried to make more recent of a practice with my kids is just look at them at different times and say, hey, what are you trying to figure out right now? And my son even recently, he's like, what? Nothing. I'm like, no, I don't mean like in this moment. I mean like in general. Like what's something that you would say is just really frustrating in life and you just can't figure it out? And it took a minute of prying, but before I knew it, we opened up this whole conversation about some struggles he's having with a few friends right now. And we've been able to go back and forth. He's in Chicago visiting his cousin right now that just got out of the boot camp for the Navy. And he just sent me this huge text last night about this kind of breakthrough in that relationship. And we're only having that conversation right now because there was a moment that I thought, man, I had so much time growing up where I had to figure things out on my own, and that was a burden to me. I want to remove that burden from my kids. Hey, what can I help you figure out? We should be burden removers, but first, listen, you got to put that on. You have got to learn how to go to the Father and let him remove burdens from you. Because his invitation to you is, my beloved son, come and take my yoke on, because my yoke is easy. Here's the next one I would say is clothe ourselves with the clothes of a pursued son, that you may hand down value and not insecurity. Do you know how many times I talk to people, dads especially, who struggle feeling value and worth because they never felt pursued by their dads or by their moms? They just never felt pursued. And so to this day, they still feel like they're trying to impress dad, impress mom, live up to expectations, get them to notice, disappointed when they don't get celebrated because they weren't pursued. Here's one of the most beautiful verses about the nature of God with you. Look at this, Psalms. This is David writing, and he says, your beauty and love chase after me every day of my life. I love that idea. He says he chases you. Listen, God, the creator of all things, who could of his own right, being the power of all powers, be distant and removed, and instead, he chases you every day. Why? Because he is wildly passionate about you. I wonder if you feel his pursuit. Do you sit enough in his presence to be convinced of his affection and pursuit of you? Because the more you believe that God as a father pursues you, the more I truly believe you will be a pursuer. And that looks different. All three of my kids are so unique, so different, and it's so exaggerated and obvious even with the twins. Grew up the same experiences, side by side their entire life, and yet they couldn't be more different. And so my pursuit of them has to look different. I have to pursue Tobin differently than I pursue Corinne, differently than I pursue Jocelyn. But I have to be intentional to pursue them, unique to who they are. And I find the more that I sit in a place of awareness that God is pursuing me, the more I want to pursue my kids. Matter of fact, I want to give you one resource that we try to put together every year to help with this process. It's not where it happens completely, but it's a help. It's Rock Your Family. So I think we actually have a graphic. So this year it's going to look a little bit different. Last year we weren't able to do it because of COVID. This year as we're kind of easing back in to the habit of Rock Your Family, it's going to be a one-day event. But this whole day is built around trying to create space for you as a family to be together and create intentional time of pursuit with one another. So I hope this year that you'll plan on going. There's where you can go look and register and find more information. But again, it's just a step. It's one way to be intentional, to say, I'm going to carve out a day and a moment to pursue. Here's the last one that I'll give you. And I think, honestly, it could be the first because it's the most important, but I want it to be the last thing that you'll hear, is we must learn to clothe ourselves first with the clothes of a follower before a father. A follower before a father. Let me give you one more set of verses from Jesus, because this is where what you will hand down is Jesus. In John, Jesus says these words on your screen. Remain in me, and I also in you, because no branch can bear fruit by itself. It must remain in the vine. Neither can you bear fruit unless you remain in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you will, everybody say will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. Have you ever felt like, I cannot figure this parenting thing out? He says, if you remain in me, you will bear fruit. In all aspects of your life, you will. You're the vine, Jesus is the branch, vice versa. Jesus is the vine, you're the branch. And he says it so clearly. He says, no branch can bear fruit on its own. And you know this, cut it off, it dies. But a branch connected to the vine, that bears fruit. I just know this about myself, and I see it so clearly time and time again. The more I run to the Father, the better father I become. We will always struggle to father well if we're not well fathered. It's so important and crucial to understand that. Hear me on this. This is not a list of do's and don'ts. This isn't like as parents, as dads, so often we feel like all we get in life is kind of go do this, or you haven't done this good enough. Hear me, this is not a go do this because you haven't done it good enough message. This is a God loves you, God adores you, God wishes to clothe you with pursuit, affection, joy, pleasure. And as you let him do that, you will hand that down to your children. You will bear fruit. You can't help but do it when you stay connected to the vine. When you run to the Father, you become a better father. We're actually going to sing that song right now, Run to the Father. And here would be my invitation to you as we sing it. Maybe you need to sing the words, because sometimes when we vocalize them, they become more true. They become sort of a commitment and a promise. But maybe you just need to listen to them and soak them up, and remember this above all, that the only reason we have the ability to run to the Father is because he first ran to us. Because God of creation looked down on us, and with compassion and empathy, he ran all the way to the cross, out of the tomb, and then back to us with affection. Because you are his son, his daughter, his precious, and his beloved.
Carried a burden for too long on my own. I wasn't created to bear it alone. I hear your invitation to let it all go. I see it now, I'm laying it down, and I know that I need you. I run to the Father, I fall into grace. I'm done with the hiding, no reason to wait. My heart needs a surgeon, my soul needs a friend. So I run to the Father again and again and again and again. Oh, 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 oh. You saw my condition and had a plan from the start. Your son for redemption
Glad you guys are with us this morning. As always, we have a team in the back that is our prayer team that would love if they can serve you before you leave today. To do that, listen to you, talk with you, pray for you. Otherwise, we hope you guys will have a great rest of the day celebrating the dads in your life, the beautiful weather, and one another. And we'll see you next Sunday. Bye-bye.